Hello and welcome to the public meeting on the Request for Information, or RFI, on the National Flood Insurance Program's Community Rating System Redesign effort. My name is Hunter Gray, and I'm providing some technical housekeeping information and a preview of the agenda for today's session. We are hosting this public meeting to gather input on the RFI published in the Federal Register on July 11th, 2024. The RFI seeks information on how FEMA can better serve communities through the National Flood Insurance Program's Community Rating System, also known as the CRS program. Specifically, the RFI seeks further input on suggested alternative program features and approaches for a redesigned CRS program, based upon public input from the August 23, 2021 Request for Information on the National Flood Insurance Program's Community Rating System, published in the Federal Register. Please note that this public meeting is being recorded and a transcript will become part of the public record. Continued participation in this public meeting constitutes your consent that your name may appear on the official transcript for the record. If you are a member of the media, nothing said on this call is attributable to FEMA. Please direct your request to the FEMA press office at fema-news-desk@fema.dhs.gov. The FEMA news team will help you. I'd like to provide a brief orientation to some of the controls and functions available for today's webinar. On the bottom of your screen, you will find the meeting controls. This event includes closed captioning for those who may need it. You can turn on the captioning by clicking the Show Captions or the CC icon and making any adjustments you need. We will also post a link in the chat in order to view captions in a browser window if you prefer. American Sign Language interpretation is also available and can be accessed either by clicking the interpretation icon from the webinar controls and then clicking American Sign Language, or you can see the video pinned on your screen. Note that language interpretation is only available if you join the meeting from a computer, and it's not available for those joining by phone. Live spoken language interpretation is also available in Spanish and can be accessed by clicking the interpretation icon from the controls and clicking Spanish. To hear only the audio for Spanish, click Mute Original Audio. Again, the interpretation is only available if you join the meeting from a computer, not for those joining only by phone. The purpose of this meeting is to seek general feedback on FEMA's programs. Individuals cannot apply for assistance or receive information regarding a pending assistance request as a part of the meeting. If you are seeking assistance from FEMA, please call the FEMA helpline at 1-800-621-3362 or TTY 800-462-7585 to apply or receive information on a pending request. We ask that you please use the question and answer window to reach out for help with technical difficulties. Hosts will respond to technical questions through the window. Please note that submission through the Q&A window will become part of the public record. Keep an eye on the chat window for what many messages we may need to broadcast to all participants. By default, participants are disabled from speaking during the presentation portion of the meeting. Due to the limited time frame of the meeting, the verbal comment portion of today's meeting will allow only those who registered in advance an opportunity to provide comments on the RFI for a limited amount of time. Registered speakers will be limited to approximately 2 minutes, and time permitting, speakers who had not previously registered may be permitted to give verbal comments. We ask that those who registered to speak ensure that their Zoom username matches the first and last name used for the registration. For those who registered to provide verbal comments during today's session, please note that users must join today's webinar with the Zoom desktop app or mobile app to provide verbal comments. Due to technical limitations, you will not be able to provide verbal comments if you join the webinar by phone audio only. Toward the end of the public meeting, and as time allows, there may be an open comment period for interested individuals to provide additional verbal comments. We'll also provide a link in the chat box to the NFIP CRS website, which has materials for your reference about the CRS program. Let's take a moment to review today's agenda. First, we will hear opening remarks from FEMA's Hazard Mitigation Directorate leadership. After that, we'll provide an overview of the CRS program presented by FEMA's Floodplain Management Division. From there, we'll provide an overview of the programmatic review and improvement effort for the CRS program called CRS Redesign. Once the introduction information has been provided on the current CRS program and the redesign effort, we'll explain the instructions for providing written comments through the Federal Register RFI during this open comment period. Comments can be submitted until September 9th, 2024. The majority of the time remaining time on today's public meeting is reserved for verbal comments for the record on the CRS redesign RFI. We will review all the details about how to provide verbal comments during this meeting before we open the floor for verbal comments. We'll conclude with a few closing remarks. Today's presenters include Eric Letvin, FEMA's Deputy Assistant Administrator for the Hazard Mitigation Directorate, and Shilpa Mullik, FEMA's Floodplain Management Division CRS Redesign Program Manager. And now I'm going to hand things over to our first speaker, Eric Letvin.
Hunter, can you hear me okay?
We can. Thank you, Eric.
All right. Hello, and welcome to the public meeting on the Request for Information, or RFI, on the National Flood Insurance Program's Community Rating System Redesign effort. As Hunter mentioned, FEMA is currently obtaining feedback on suggested program alternatives to the Community Rating System, or CRS, through a Request for Information, or RFI, published in July. I want to provide you with a brief background and context on the National Flood Insurance Program and the CRS. The NFIP is managed by FEMA, and it provides federally backed flood insurance to property owners, renters, and businesses. Today, approximately 22,600 communities across the country participate in the NFIP. In order for those communities to participate in the NFIP, FEMA requires them to adopt and enforce minimum floodplain management standards. The idea behind CRS is to incentivize communities to adopt measures that reduce the risk of flood damage beyond the minimum requirements of the National Flood Insurance Program through premium credits. In the last 5 years, FEMA has engaged in various strategic initiatives, including CRS redesign, and has been coordinating these transformation efforts to build an enduring national flood insurance program. As the NFIP depends on federal leadership, empowering state and local officials to take steps to mitigate their flood risk with collaboration as a focal point. This partnership is a two-part equation encompassing the thought leadership FEMA provides and the work communities and policyholders are doing to increase the nation's resilience to flooding. The CRS is a prime example of how communities are working to increase flood mitigation practices nationwide. Through the CRS Redesign Initiative, FEMA is reviewing opportunities to further promote enhanced resilience efforts through the CRS program. Today's meeting is an opportunity to provide your comments on the suggested program alternatives to the CRS program. These public meetings are designed to allow our stakeholders and the general public to learn more about this effort and to allow the opportunity to provide input. Please note, due to the high level of interest in today's meeting, we will accommodate as many registered speakers as we can fit within the proper time period. I want to thank you for taking the time to participate in this process and help make the CRS program sustainable and beneficial for many years to come. And now I'm going to hand things off to Shilpa Mullik, the CRS Redesign Program Manager, to provide an overview of the CRS redesign effort and further information on how you can provide input on the suggested program alternatives.
Thank you, Eric. Hunter, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Shilpa. One moment.
Okay.
Okay.
Should I?
There we go. I think you're all set.
Okay, great. Hello, and thank you for joining today's public meeting for the National Flood Insurance Program's Community Rating Systems Redesign Request for Information. We abbreviate this as NFIP and CRS. My name is Shilpa Mullik. and I'm the program manager for the CRS redesign effort. I'll be providing you with a brief overview of the current CRS program and then speaking about the CRS redesign effort. So the CRS program was designed to empower and incentivize communities to take actions that go above and beyond the minimum floodplain management standards of the NFIP and to reward and incentivize those actions. This program's original intent was to reduce and avoid flood damage to insurable property, strengthen and support the insurance aspects of the National Flood Insurance Program, and foster comprehensive floodplain management. The program was premised on the belief that communities are best positioned to develop the most effective approaches to local flood problems. Authorized by Congress in 1994, the CRS program offers many benefits to participating communities. CRS discounts currently range from 5 to 45% and are calculated based on a community's credits points obtained through various flood risk management activities. Other benefits include increasing opportunities for property owners to understand flood risk, reduced damage to flood property, technical assistance for some community activities, and incentives to maintain and improve flood programs over time. The CRS program offers credits to communities based on implementing approved floodplain management activities. These activities are organized into 4 categories that provide a sense of the range of what's possible to earn credits for under CRS today. These categories are public information, mapping and regulations, flood damage reduction, and warning and response. To give you a better understanding of the scale of the current program, as of April 2024, there are approximately 1,500 communities participating in the CRS across the US. And there are over 3.5 million policyholders in these CRS communities, which account for more than 75% of all NFIP flood insurance policies. Now I'll speak a bit about the reason we're pursuing the CRS redesign effort at this time. CRS redesign is a multi-year effort intended to take a comprehensive look at the CRS program, exploring both incremental improvements and bold shifts in approach. This was launched in 2022, and the project aims to revamp the CRS programmatic framework, potentially including revisions to the rating system scoring and operational elements. CRS redesign is FEMA's way of addressing stakeholders' feedback on the current CRS program. The redesign effort is a way for the public to have input on the future of a prominent flood risk reduction and money-saving program. In sum, we have heard your feedback and are once again speaking to our partners and stakeholders to determine the best path forward for the future of CRS. As mentioned earlier, the CRS redesign effort is intended to take a comprehensive look at the CRS program, exploring both incremental improvements and bold shifts in approach. We did not arrive at this place by accident. CRS redesign is in part a response to the overwhelming volume of feedback received from stakeholders in the last few years, including from the request for information in 2021. CRS has always been a highly valued program with a solid reputation with communities and stakeholders. But we want to be mindful of those positive experiences and carefully consider any impacts that would result from a total overhaul of the program. CRS redesign also reflects ongoing transformations in FEMA and the NFIP aimed at increasing equity and climate resilience. There have been many important advances since the CRS program's inception over 30 years ago. There has also been continuous learning about flooding and flood risk reduction techniques. We understand more today about risk and the techniques to manage risk, and the technology available to us has dramatically improved in the last 30 years. We also know more about multi-frequency analysis, pluvial flooding, climate change, and the extent of flood risk outside of the Special Flood Hazard Area, or SFHA. Another important factor that we're considering during the CRS design process is a report from the Government Accountability Office, or GAO, which was published in July 2023. GAO presented several findings about the CRS program as it currently operates. The GAO report used their findings to provide 2 recommendations to the CRS program. First is to adjust CRS by calculating a community's rating based only on community's activities that reduce flood risk and by incorporating discounts into the full risk premium based on the actuarial evaluation of risk reduction. And second, to evaluate other means for incentivizing desirable community activities that cannot be actuarially justified, but are currently a basis for discounts in CRS. Both of these recommendations are being considered through the CRS redesign effort. That said, we've heard from internal and external stakeholders about opportunities to improve and occasional and thoughtful criticism. All of these factors together paint the picture of why FEMA must undertake the CRS redesign to remain consistent with other change efforts and stakeholder feedback. Next, I'd like to take a moment to talk about where we are in the overall life cycle of the project, what we've accomplished so far, and what we're focused on for this year. We've said it already, and we'll say it again, CRS redesign is a multi-year effort. We're doing this because taking a deliberate and intentional analytical approach ensures that the future design and features of CRS are founded on rigorous data-driven and evidence-based decision-making. The evaluation process we're undertaking is the second phase of the larger CRS redesign journey. We're executing an intentional process that centers around a deliberate and analytical approach to program design. As we look ahead, FEMA will use the evaluation findings to initially select a program design in FY25 for further consideration, with the goal of focusing on implementing planning in 2026. No changes will be made to the CRS program at least until 2026. It's important to note that with whatever program design is chosen, FEMA is dedicated to providing ample time for communities to prepare for the implementation of the redesigned program. Once the multi-year redesign process concludes and the new program is finalized, FEMA will allow a minimum of 18 months for communities to make any necessary adjustments and successfully implement the program. This extended timeline offers communities the opportunity to plan, adapt, and ensure a smooth transition to the revamped CRS, promoting a more efficient and effective floodplain management approach. One of the first milestones completed in the CRS redesign process was establishing goals for the future of the program. These goals were developed based on stakeholder feedback about the current CRS program with input from FEMA experts and NFIP executives. The following goals have been established for the redesigned CRS program. Goal 1 is to incentivize communities to take measurable actions and make sustained progress that reduce current and future flood risk. Goal 2 is embed equity as a foundation of the CRS program. Goal 3 is to incentivize communities to promote property owners to purchase flood insurance to reduce their financial risk due to flood. And goal 4 is deliver a participant-centered and modernized program. So now that I've centered you around the progress we've made in the CRS redesign effort and the focus of our current work, I'd like to transition to the engagement portion of today's presentation. Based on previous stakeholder feedback, FEMA is considering suggested alternative ways for the CRS program to be designed. So stakeholder engagement questions consider the following suggested features: automatic enrollment, premium surcharges, risk-based premiums and CRS discounts, exchanging individual benefits for community benefits, enhanced technical assistance, simplification of CRS, and multi-jurisdiction CRS participation. Next, we're going to spend a few minutes talking through how we're engaging the public on this effort and how you can participate. We'll be providing multiple opportunities for stakeholders and the public to provide input throughout the CRS design initiative. FEMA has issued this request for information to receive input from the public on transforming the community rating system under the NFIP to better align with the current understanding of flood risk and flood risk reduction approaches, and to incentivize communities to not only manage, but also lower their flood risk through floodplain management initiatives and to support the sound financial framework of the NFIP. You may submit comments identified by docket ID FEMA-2024-0022-0001 through the federal e-rulemaking portal at www.regulations.gov. All submissions must include the agency name and docket ID for this notice. For access to the docket to read background documents or comments received, go to http://www.regulations.gov and search for the docket ID. Written comments are requested on or before September 9th, 2024. For any comments, we ask you to identify the number of the specific question or questions to which you are responding. We'll now move into the verbal comment portion of our meeting today. Members of the public who during registration indicated an interest in providing verbal comments will be given the opportunity to speak. As a reminder of what Eric mentioned earlier at the top of the meeting, please note that due to a high level of interest in today's meeting, we'll accommodate as many registered speakers as we can fit within 2 to 2.5 hours. If you register to speak and due to time limitations, we do not get to you during today's meeting, we encourage you to sign up to provide verbal comments at one of the other public meetings. We would also like to remind everyone that written comments may be submitted through regulations.gov. Speaking order is determined by the date of submission in chronological order of registration and will be using a timer to stay on track. Moderators will call 2 names. The first will be the current speaker and the second will be the speaker on deck. When your name is called, please use the raise hand function to indicate your readiness to speak. A moderator will then invite you to unmute your microphone. Once your mic is unmuted and you're ready to speak, please state your name for the record and that you're ready to speak. Each speaker will have approximately 2 minutes to speak and the timer will begin after you've been acknowledged by the moderator to speak. The moderator will say, "We hear you," first name. Your time for verbal comments begins now. If time allows, after all registered speakers finish providing verbal comments, we'll invite other meeting participants who have not yet spoken to indicate an interest in speaking by clicking raise hand and submitting a note to moderators in the Q&A window. We anticipate having more people who would like to provide comments than we have time for today. In the event you'd like to provide verbal comments for the record and there's not enough time for you to comment, we're holding 2 more public meetings tomorrow, August 22nd, from 3 to 4:30 Eastern Time, and Tuesday, August 27th, from 3 to 4:30 Eastern Time. We also welcome your written comments, which can be submitted via the federal e-rulemaking portal through September 9th. Unfortunately, as we stated on the registration page for this event, anyone who has dialed in by phone will be unable to provide spoken comments at this time. If you've dialed into this meeting by phone and wish to provide a comment, please submit a written comment online at www.regulations.gov and insert FEMA-2024-0022-0001 in the search function. With that, now I'll invite Hunter Gray to facilitate the verbal comment portion of this meeting. Over to you, Hunter. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Shilpa. Okay, as we move in, here are the names of our first 2 speakers for today. Kimberly Peary, you will be up first to speak, and then following Kimberly, we have Janet Mishek. So let me see if Kimberly Peary is on and able to speak.
Hunter, this is Kimberly.
Yes, we can hear you.
I didn't realize I mentioned that I want to provide verbal comment. I do not have comments at this time.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, let me do one thing to switch who is signing for us. Okay. And then after that, I believe we have Janet Mishek is up next. And then after that, it is Roderick Scott. Janet, are you ready?
Now can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. You ready?
Sorry, I'm afraid I'm in the same situation. I didn't realize I signed up to make comments and I don't have any right now.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, we have Roderick Scott up to speak now, and Tom McDonald is slated to follow him. Roderick, are you ready to speak?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you very much, and thank you, FEMA, for enabling these listening sessions. It's very important. My name is Roderick Scott. I'm the board chairman of the Flood Mitigation Industry Association. We are the product manufacturers and service providers that retrofit buildings and help with deployable flood control products that help create flood resilience in our communities. I'll just go down the bullet list of the items that we're to be talking about. Should FEMA enroll all communities, all NFIP communities as a pre-enrollment for CRS? Yes. The threshold for getting into the program is much too cumbersome for small and medium-sized communities. They don't have the revenues to even put dedicated staff to it, and certainly can't afford consultants to help them. So we should at least get them into the program. Second one, if FEMA were to provide NFIP premium discounts to individual policyholders for CRS activities, should they also provide discounts for the whole community? Yes. The issue is in NFIP 2.0, the current NFIP iteration that we're in, the mitigation discounts that we enjoyed or that we are able to convince people to retrofit their buildings to be able to realize those benefits of reduced premiums for a return on investment have disappeared virtually. We're at $100 or $200 difference if you spend $250,000 on your building or don't spend a dime on your building. We're midway to actuarial risk rates. We have a decade left. The banks tell us that in 20 years, we can anticipate a 40% devaluation on millions of buildings and trillions of dollars of assets. We must have mitigation discounts for the individual actions as well as the community getting more recognition, because the CRS program has always had kind of a handicap towards credits for other activities that reduce flood risk, but not for the activities that get buildings compliant for the NFIP and minimum elevation requirements, which is the only way they're going to survive economically into the future and continue to provide us shelter and revenues to make everything else go around. So
just a reminder of the time, please try to conclude your comment.
Yep, and we need to have the CRS recognize numbers of retrofits or percentage of the community pre-firm buildings that have been retrofitted for credits. We just never have achieved that in the CRS. Thank you for this opportunity, and that's the end of my comments.
Hunter, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Roderick, thank you for speaking, and thank you for that note, Shilpa. Up next to speak is Tom McDonald, and following Tom McDonald on deck is Lisa Sherrard. Tom, are you ready to speak?
Hi, my name's Tom McDonald. I work for the City of Savannah Development Services Department and CRS coordinator. I was not really prepared to talk, but one of the things that that you were mentioning was, since some of the incentives for elevating has been removed by the new risk rating 2.0, it might be to the benefit of adding additional points to some of the more active protection measures for building that such as vents or elevating or flood resistant materials, elevating the AC unit at least to your design flood elevation, that you are able to get more points for those actions. And that way you can get discounts from the risk rating 2.0 through your community's class. And right now that's mainly all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. All right, next to speak is Lisa Sherrard. Lisa, let us enable your microphone and let us know when you are ready to speak. And then Marcia Steelman, you're on deck next.
Hi, this is Lisa Sherrard. I did put comment in there in the comments section. You know, we give CRS gives a lot of credit for activities that communities have no intentions of implementing through plans or paper exercises that don't really get utilized. They do it for the points, but other than that, you know, they're paperweights. And so what I'd like to do is see CRS give credit for actual implementation rather than just having a paper representation. So if we could set up milestones or, you know, something that shows that they're actually trying to implement a repetitive loss plan that they have, that they're applying for grants. You know, there's some communities that will do the plans and they just don't have any intentions of implementing them. And so I think if we can show progress towards, you know, implementing those activities, we're going to see more results and better benefit for CRS on the discounts. Some of the activities in CRS, you know, it's a lot of paperwork. You know, perhaps some of this verification could be rolled into the community assistance visits. So there's not 2 audits done on duplicate activities. And I think, you know, perhaps by doing it that way, we might see some more participation if it's less of a commitment of time and energy by having 2 separate audits, one through the community assistance visit audit and then the CRS audits. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa, for your comments. Next, speaking next is Marcia Steelman, and then after that, Aida Lonergan is on deck. Marcia, are you ready to provide comments?
Yes, I'm ready. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Your time begins
Yeah.
now.
Good afternoon. In the sake of the time we have, I concur with the comments of the previous speakers. I just would like to mention a couple of things that recommendations that the DAO report and that have to do with the CRS. First, the concern that I have is that we don't have enough credits related to our actual building code. Having a strong building code, that's what we have in Florida. And we really, you know, for the amount of effort we put on those, you really don't see the program rewarding it enough. Most of our points actually come from environmental things we actually implement because, of course, we are close to the Everglades. And we always have this, we have 2 national parks now in our particular community. So many of those activities get implemented by the county, by the state, on the areas surrounding this national park. So we get most of our points on that. But those don't help at all in terms of flood protection in our area. They are important for us, important for tourists, important for the economy, but they don't really represent savings in terms of flood protection or insurance, because they don't affect the urban area and don't affect the insurance bill. So I think that's a little bit of a disconnect. I don't want it to be rewarded less, but I do think that the building environment part should have a bigger weight than in the CRS program than it actually has now. And these are the main comment I have. Other is the affordability of the flood insurance and the fact that this is an issue that's not really CIS, but has to do with the NFIP. Most of us do not get insurance through the NFIP because the cap is $250,000. So, and those that are in this range are not being able to afford flood insurance. So we have a problem there.
Marcia, as a reminder of time, please try to conclude your comment.
Yeah, that's pretty much, these are the main issue that I have. I would like to have the building environment have a bigger weight on the way the activities under the CRS program get credited, particularly related to the building code activities.
Okay.
That's it. And I
Thank you.
conclude the previous comments. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Marcia. Thank you for comments. Speaking next is Aida Lonergan, and on deck is John McLean. Aida, are you on? If so, please raise your hand. Doesn't appear Aida's on. John, are you on?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great, I appreciate it. So I'm just a resident of Fort Myers Beach, but we obviously went through some pretty significant impacts here after Hurricane Ian. And we are all working very hard to rebuild and appreciate, quite frankly, the assistance, especially directly after the storm. The comment I wanted to make was that our town and some of the surrounding communities were stripped of our, we had a 25%, I think, I can't remember what the rating was, but it resulted in a 25% discount. And that was stripped from us without really any explanation as to where we were deficient. And I know that the town had been working very diligently to try and ensure that all the rules were being followed right from the get-go. Since that has occurred, it appears that, you know, through escalation, there is now some dialogue and some discussion that's occurring, which is very positive. However, that's not the way this started, and it's very disappointing to see that lack of communication and, quite frankly, what felt very punitive to a neighborhood and a community that had undergone such difficult times. So that's my comment.
Thank you for your comments, John. Up next to speak is Greg Sakes. Greg, are you on? If so, please raise your hand. All right. Up next, we have Kelly DeFedericis. Okay. It appears Kelly is not online at the moment. Next up, we have James Pagioli. James, are you ready to speak? And then next up would be Matthew Levi.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can, thank you. Your time begins now.
Very good. My name's James Pagioli, floodplain administrator, Brunswick County, North Carolina. I would like to echo many of the same comments previously. I would like to see simplification, especially on county levels. Case in point, we have much more open space than, quite frankly, the area of many municipalities within our county. We don't seem to get the same proportional benefit that they might have. So one of the things that I would like to see is an adjustment, perhaps the open space and those types of reserving land for those issues and conservation issues, whether they be easements or in fee submissions. Other than that, I'll leave it because I think everybody else is going to hit many of the same issues, simplification and then just proportional.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Up next is Matthew Levi. Matthew, are you ready to provide comments?
Can you hear me?
We can. Your time begins now.
Sure. My name is Matthew Levi. I'm the floodplain administrator for Ashe County, North Carolina. And we are a small rural jurisdiction, and we don't have the budget or the staff members to implement CRS, nor do any of the adjacent counties. So I'd like the whole CRS program be easy enough for it to be administered in a small jurisdiction. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Up next, we have Elena Divino. Elena, are you on and ready to speak? All right, it does not appear Elena is on at the moment. Christina Rhymes is up next. Christina, are you ready to provide comment? Christina, you're on. You may need to unmute yourself if you are able to speak and ready to provide comment. Okay. All right, we'll move on to the next person. Kelsey Whitten, would you like to provide comments? Kelsey, your mic.
Hi, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Your time begins now.
Yes, hi, I'm Kelsey Whitten. I am the floodplain manager for Highlands County. We are a county that is in Central Florida that has a population just over 100,000. I would consider us fairly rural. Again, like the commenter before, we don't have the funding or the staff available, even at our size, to devote one person to be a CRS coordinator. I would like to see the CRS program be more open to smaller municipalities because ultimately that's what's going to be of a benefit to our community members. It seems that it's a pretty in-depth process. I've just come on into the world of floodplain management in the last 8 months, and truthfully, it's at the bottom of my list of things that I can even take on right now as the floodplain manager and the other hats that I'm wearing. So that would be something that I would strongly urge in the overhaul. That's the end of my comments.
Thank you for your comments. Up next is Katie Hollingshead, and after that is Elizabeth Leibold. Katie, are you ready to speak and provide comments?
Yes, can you hear me?
Your audio is working. It's a little bit hard to hear you volume-wise. You want to try again?
Is that better?
Yes, that is. Thank you.
Okay. I echoed the comments previously. I'm floodplain administrator in Springdale, Arkansas, and while we do have a good CRS program, it is difficult to implement. Our city's less than 100,000, and it does provide benefits, but it would just be nice to see a little bit more out of the program for cities that, I don't know, maybe rewarding cities that don't have flooding issues to start with, but that's all.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Elizabeth Liebold, you are at next. And following that would be Whitney McNamara. Elizabeth, are you ready to provide comments?
Oh, can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Oh,
Yes.
goody. Okay, sorry. So I would have some sympathy for the smaller jurisdictions. I've been doing, this is Elizabeth. I work at the city of Tucson. I've been doing CRS coordinator position for, I'm not sure, maybe 15 years or longer. And I have a lot of experience in this. It is a lot of effort to participate. It does only take a few hours here and there to do it. So you don't necessarily need somebody available all the time, but it does take a lot of upfront to read the whole manual, understand it, go to training on it, which I highly recommend. So I don't think that we should have automatic enrollment. Absolutely not. It needs to be a community decision based on what they want to do, or provide a mini program for smaller discounts if they can't participate in the bigger program. Regarding premium surcharges, this is very important. We have way too many Congress added last minute extra fees. And I really feel resentful. As a CRS coordinator, I should be able to have the discounts apply to all of these extra fees that Congress are adding. That's not fair to the constituents that are getting a discount on a portion of their premium, but these additional fees that are being added last minute by Congress are not being discounted. That absolutely must change. There's no argument for it. It needs to happen. It needs to apply. Risk-based premiums and CRS discounts. I think there's various activities that we need to look at to update the 600 series in particular. Needs to have a little bit more clear understanding of the setup of what needs to happen to get those points. And then regarding multi-jurisdictional participation, that also needs more clarification because, a county flood control district shares some points with local communities, but that needs to be clarified more in the verbiage in the manual on how that can happen. Those are the topics of interest to me. Simplification of CRS. Unfortunately,
as a reminder, please be mindful of time and conclude your comment soon.
There's many different types of activities, so simplifying it's going to be difficult, but I would like to see simplification. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Up next, we have Whitney McNamara. Let me see if Whitney is on. Whitney, if you're on, please raise your hand. Does not look like Whitney is on. Carolyn Steffen, are you on? If you are, please raise your hand. Does not look like Carolyn is on either. Next up is Randy Daniel. Randy, are you on and ready to provide comments? Randy, you may need to unmute your microphone, but you should be allowed to speak now. Okay, come back to us later if you still would like to provide comment. We're going to move on to the next person. Next up would be Vince Sejas. Vince, would you like to provide comment?
Yes, I just wanted to make and echo a few comments that I've heard. The CRS program point system needs to be regionalized. and areas without dams or levees, other activities should have more points awarded. Lowering the substantial improvement, substantial damage threshold, or tracking substantial improvement and substantial damage over a longer period of time than permit to permit needs to be awarded more points. Risk rating 2.0 is critically flawed. You have premiums that are based on replacement costs. Yes, the payouts are still not replacement cost. It's still 250 max. I see that as an issue. Mitigation for other forms of disasters like hurricane and wind still are counted against for SI and SD. You're essentially punishing mitigation efforts in communities that track SI and SD. So this needs to find some kind of exception when you're mitigating against another hazard. CRS discounts are dwindling, and thus the elected bodies that help fund us through budgets are less willing to fund CRS coordinators or staff. This is something that needs to be addressed and recognized. If a discount is not provided directly to a person that's paying the policy, you will eliminate essentially the incentive of the elected body to even invest in the staff for the higher standards. Basically, it's some of these things are creating an impossible environment. And the perception clearly is that the CRS program is either going to go away or there's really not a will to maintain it. There's another issue when it comes to recertification and rating. Well, when we sit down with some of these reviewers from the bodies that review, ISO is the one that pops to mind locally. Rating and pointing awarding metrics need to be made more available. Okay, sometimes the determinations feel or appear capricious and arbitrary. Not all the criterion are in the CRS manual when dealing with reviews. So it appears, again, that there's some kind of secret guide out there. Instead of getting the 200 points or the 100 points, you get a piece of that, and you're left holding the bag after the review. And then you've got to go again to council and tell them, hey, we're not going to be able to meet the goal or maintain the rating we've had, even though, for example, we had to redo the repetitive loss check, even though no development has occurred. And any that has is obviously to the new higher standards we've adopted, but we're not getting credit for that. So those are some of the critical flaws that I would like to mention. There's enough mistrust of government already in this toxic environment.
Please be mindful of time and conclude your remarks soon.
Yes, I'll complete my statement momentarily. Providing the discount to a municipal government or a body to do some kind of grant would just slap those people paying the policy in the face. Folks, we got to think this out a little better and actually deliver on the promises. That's all I've got. Thank you very much. Vince Ceja, City of Doral.
Thank you for your comment. All right. Next up is Con Cole. Con, if you are on, please raise your hand. Does not appear that Con is on. Next, we have Gary Beswick. Gary, are you on and ready to provide comment? Does not appear that Gary is on. Next, we have Lauren Brinkman. Lauren, are you on and do you want to provide comment?
Hi, can you hear me?
We can. Your time starts now.
Hi, this is Lauren Brinkman. I am the floodplain administrator for the city of Mandeville, located here in Louisiana. I am also a part of LFMA. It's our state floodplain management association. It is really important that I came on here to talk today just to make sure that, you know, with having verbal comments that I'm able to give some feedback. So one thing that I know in Louisiana is our land is low. We do flood. I feel like this CRS program is something that is looked at nationally. So you have to look at all communities differently. With that being said, with me being a part of a city and not having points for certain things like larger open space and maybe even some drainage incentives and us not having levees here, things that we really gather a lot of our points on are the high regulatory standards as well as elevations. We are a historic community that we want to preserve these historic homes. So we actually elevate these homes. A lot of the homeowners here do it voluntarily to protect their homes. And whenever I heard that, you know, there could be possibly receiving double discounts for the same CRS activity, whenever we refer to as freeboard and elevation. Freeboard and elevation are two completely different things. Freeboard is something that's put into place as just a higher standard above just the regular base flood elevation. So that could be for new construction and everything else, just as, you know, additional, just an additional standard to kind of follow. Elevation, that is something that we are incentivizing our residents to want to do better, to want to protect their property. And to take that away as considering those two as double points, I feel would be unrealistic and extremely sad, honestly, to the property owner who's in the community that's wanting to enforce these higher standards. I feel like the community should be, you know, given the points, as well as that individual property owner for taking the time to, you know, to care about their property and to help mitigate their property. I'm done with my comment.
Thank you for your comment. Next up, we have Elizabeth Smythe. Elizabeth, are you on and ready to provide comments? Sorry, you may need to unmute. Elizabeth, we can't hear you yet. Are you? There you go.
I just got on and I'm not even up to speed with what y'all are talking about. I'm so sorry.
Okay, that's all right. Okay, next up, we have Monica Ferris. Monica, are you on and ready to provide comment?
I am on, but I will submit my comment via online. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Monica. Okay, next up is Leroy Thompson. Leroy, if you're on, please raise your hand. Does not look like Leroy is on. Next up is Randy Neprash. Randy, are you ready to provide comments?
Hi, I'm Randy Neprash with the Minnesota Cities Stormwater Coalition. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent, thank you. I work with local stormwater programs, specifically cities that hold EPA MS4 stormwater permits. These cities play important roles in managing localized flooding from intense rainstorms in particular, but their work is poorly understood by federal agencies, including FEMA, NOAA, and EPA. For most of the US, more of our rainfall is now coming in these intense storms. We hear about such storms in the news all the time now. I'm going to briefly address a couple topics with the hope that FEMA staff will follow up by contacting me for more information. About 6,500 American cities are covered under MS4 stormwater permits, including more than 80% of the country's population. The requirements for these permits cover many of the goals and credits enumerated in the CRS program, and yet the CRS program does not link the CRS credits with the MS4 permit requirements or a city's permit compliance. In the 2021 manual addendum, the regulatory standards section was actually eliminated. This is all astonishing and inefficient. It should be fixed. City stormwater programs make extensive use of hydraulic and hydrology modeling, H&H modeling. The manual makes frequent indirect references to modeling, specifically in relation to design storms and plan review. The manual, though, shows a remarkably incomplete knowledge about how H&H modeling actually works and is used by cities. There is no information, for example, about cities using full system H&H models to identify and rectify flooding problem areas in advance of when these new, more intense rainstorms hit and catastrophes happen. There's no reference to how the numbers used for various design storms, the 10, 25, and 100-year storms, are derived. NOAA's Technical Paper 40, Atlas 14, or the soon-to-be-released Atlas 15. There are also no references to whether cities use modeling to estimate cumulative impacts or resolve neighborhood-level problem areas. All these issues should be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next on, we have, actually, first, let me do one thing. Okay, next up, we have Lourdes Rodriguez. Lourdes, are you on and ready to provide comments?
Hi, good afternoon. I have been in this CRS world since the late 80s, early 90s when it first implemented. And I've seen it getting more and more complicated as the years go by. And I've noticed that sometimes the amount of effort that we put into it is really not worth the return. It's become very cumbersome. I also have seen that, at least in our Miami-Dade County, and I echo what a lot of people said, Vince and Marcia before, that I work very closely with them on a lot of their points. Many things that the county does at the county level, it implicates a lot, and it runs down to all of the municipalities, and we are no longer getting those benefits as far as in points. Also, a lot of paperwork gets a lot of points, and it doesn't really change or make a difference within flood mitigation. And I think it's become a contest of who can get a better rate, who can do this. It's become a sort of a status instead of what it's really supposed to be for flood mitigation and for safety. So I think that simplifying it would be very good. Automatic entering into the program, I don't know that you'll get more participants, but I don't know if you'll get many people doing anything. Again, it's just sort of a badge for you doing it. We're in CRS, check this point off. So I think it has to be analyzed from the end user more than from the other side. So those are really my comments, and I hope to see how this continues to evolve. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, next up, we have Kevin Deneau. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, but Kevin, are you on and would you like to provide comment?
Can you hear me?
We can. Your time starts now.
Kevin Denault, GIS mapping specialist with the city of Portland, Maine. Appreciate you guys putting this on, very helpful. I just wanted to make a couple comments. We'd like to make some recommendations to improve the CRS point scoring system by increasing the point values for communities that have additional shoreline zoning and regulations for both inland and along the coast. Ideally, it would benefit, provide further enhancement and protection and mitigation from future flooding. And that's all I have for today.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. Next up is Rick Buckeye. Rick, are you on and would you like to provide comments? Does not appear Rick is on. Next up is Christian Summers. Christian, are you on and would you like to speak? You may need to unmute your microphone if you are trying to speak. Okay, we'll try that again later. Next up is Terry Sheffield. Terry, are you on and would you like to provide comments? We cannot hear you if you are speaking. You may need to come off mute. Okay. No mic. It looks like you should be able to speak, but we can't hear you if you are trying to provide comments, Terry. Okay, how about this, Terry? If you would like to provide comments, please put that in the question and answer, and we can try to troubleshoot that with you. But for the moment, we're going to move on to the next speaker, who is DJ Hart. DJ, would you like to provide comments? DJ, if you're speaking, we can't hear you, but it does look like you are unmuted. I don't believe we can hear yet. So DJ, if you would still like to provide verbal comments, please post something in the question and answer, and we'll try to resolve with you. For the moment, I'm going to pause us there. It looks like we've gotten through the list of folks who have registered to speak during today's session. Now there are those who, if you would like to speak but did not register to do so when you signed up to participate in this meeting, would invite you to raise your hand using the function at the bottom of your window. And that will get you into a queue to speak. At the moment, the first person up would be Nazar Nabati. After that would be Pamela Tuft. Nazar, are you on and ready to provide comment?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Your time starts now.
Yeah, my name is Nazar Nabati. I'm floodplain administrator for the city of Phoenix. We are trying to improve our classification. As of today, city of Phoenix is classified as class 5, and we have enough points. We believe we can go to class 4, even to class 3, but we run into the situation that when we are dealing with the federal dam to gain all the prerequisite score on the 600 series, we stuck between BLM and CRS review, because BLM, they are not willing to release those inundated map and emergency plans to us because of national security, and we cannot get this. I believe this is a punishment to us. If two federal agency, they should have something mechanism, the plans is there, the emergency plans is there, everything, we should automatically get those scored to us without giving any effort from our end. Even though we try to make our own inundation map and emergency plans, but we need some information on those federal dams. That what I believe is not fair, that the city has a lot of effort put into it to improve the classification, and we stuck. I would love to see any help in this matter, and get us those points that we deserve, and we will improve our classification. That definitely is going to help all city's residents to get more discount on their flood insurance. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, next up is Pamela Tuft. Pamela, are you on and ready to provide comments?
Yes, I'm on. Thank you very, very much for this seminar or workshop. I look forward to reading written comments when they come out. I am a special projects manager and serve as CRS coordinator for a community of 60,000 that has 7 miles of a drowned river flowing through it. We have been a class 6 since the mid-90s when I was floodplain administrator. And we have spent way too much money on modeling, but it's been incredibly useful as climate change and sea level rise. I'd like to see, and we are now working on updating all of our FEMA firm panels with this new model to show the impacts of atmospheric rivers. storms, which we are subjected to in the North Bay of San Francisco in California. So, but I'd like to see, I agree with the last gentleman on dams. We have a public dam of low risk that we have are no longer storing water on it. But I can't even get 1 point in 600. The fact that we have now put it into decommissioned status and no longer hold water. So I'd like to see that offer a little bit more flexibility to allow public agencies with small dams to get some help on that. We are working towards our class 5, and I'd like to see as we transition into your new program that those efforts over the last 20 years will not be dissolved, and we have to start all over. So I would hope that the change is a gracious change, and that communities who are serious about their CRS rating are given the credit to ease into the new system with as much grace as we've worked at to maintain our class 6 and are working on class 5. I'd love to talk about RLL. There's something in that system that's broken. Trying to get parcels under that are on our RL list that aren't even in our jurisdiction has been pretty hilarious. So I'd like to see some work on that, trying to deal with RLL corrections. So anyway, thank you again, and I look forward to the future.
Thank you for your comments. Up next, we have Visa or Peter Kartunen. Peter, are you ready to provide comments?
Yes, I am ready to provide comments. My question is on how the potential violations are started. It seems like every time somebody out asks for a CLOMAR, it starts off with a potential violation, even when the structure has been built as per the standards that are in place, and even with the state permits and everything else that has been done, when they start the CLOMAR, it always seems to go back to the potential violation. There's something that needs to change on how it is assigned. It just seems it's very arbitrary. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Up next, we have Dustin Willett. Dustin, are you on and ready to provide comments? Dustin, if you're speaking, we can't hear you, but it does appear that you are unmuted. I don't know that we can hear you yet, Dustin. I'm going to move on to the next person. Dustin, if you'd still like to try providing verbal comments, please post something in the Q&A box for us. Next up is Zane Dunham. Zane, are you on and would you like to provide comments?
I am on, thank you. I'm a floodplain administrator in McLennan County, Texas. And I'd just like to provide 3 comments to the first 3 questions of the list of questions for commenters. To the first question, should FEMA provide each community with a report highlighting potential CRS program credits? Yes, such a report would be beneficial. Number 2, should FEMA auto-enroll all NFIP participating communities into the CRS program? No, not all NFIP participants desire to be part of the CRS program. And lastly, number 3, would there be any advantage if FEMA were to assess an escalating surcharge on NFIP policy premiums for NFIP participating communities that are not in compliance? No, such escalating surcharges would be punitive in effect, and many policyholders will start to complain. And all of those complaints and time wasted with listening to those complaints will be directed to the local floodplain administrator. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Up next, we have Debbie Bassick. Debbie, would you like to provide verbal comments?
Yes, I would. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry. I did just want to make a comment about, I do not agree with the automatic enrollment, being that the CRS is a voluntary program. And I do think that it is part of the incentivizing of the communities to want to engage in flood reduction and higher standards and all of that so that they can get these discounts. And if they're automatically enrolled, I feel like that puts more pressure on communities to be more active in the program. And once elected officials know that they're in the program, then it's going to put more stress on those employees that are already wearing several hats. For the people who are saying that the manual is kind of overcomplicated and burdensome, I don't disagree with you there, but I would encourage you to get with other participating communities and to form a users group. I run a CRS users group. I'm here in Houston, Texas, and we work closely with our ISO specialist, and she's been wonderful about bringing training right to us and kind of interpreting the manual for our benefit. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, it looks like we've gotten through that list. Let me check again. Dustin Willett, if you're on, would you like to provide comments still? Doesn't appear that Dustin is still on. If there were others who were on and were given a chance to speak but had technical difficulties and didn't end up speaking, please raise your hands and we are happy to come back to you now. Okay, it appears that we have gone through that list. Since we've gone through all the registered speakers and those who've raised their hands, this is an open call for any other individuals who may want to provide verbal comments for the record. If you'd like to do so, please raise your hand. You can find that button at the bottom of your window and we will call on you. I see EM. Can you please, if you'd like to provide verbal comments, please identify yourself and state your name for the record before you begin.
I'm unmuted now. My name is Gene May in Chicago, Illinois. I'm a longtime FEMA employee for public assistance. Being an architect, I am interested in bringing more resilience to my local community. It's about 20 miles west of the city. We're about 20,000 people. We are not CRS. I'm interested in following this concept of a user group to engage people who may be seeing the challenge as too difficult. So my suggestion is, first, I'd like to contact that lady in Houston and join her group to see what I can bring back to my local community. But also, I would like to advise that if there was a public-facing portal that collected these people that wanted to contribute, I think that would be engaging. I think people would be able to refer to it to find some of these other speakers. I would like to speak to some of the people that have talked this afternoon. This has to do with the general push of, not push, but growing interest in resiliency locally. So that's my comment, a public-facing portal to capitalize on this idea of a CRS user group, informal, voluntary, and I think that would be one way to create engagement in communities that are not CRS. That's all I have.
Thank you for your comments. Up next, we have Karen Morrell. Karen, would you like to come on and provide verbal comments?
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me today. This is Karen Morrell. I am an insurance agent who has basically had her career in the Florida Keys since 1998. And I followed this flood topic very diligently. Just want to reach out and say that some of the problems I'm seeing in my communities who are diligent in applying for these discounts, the policyholders under risk rating 2.0 are not reaping those benefits. I have customers paying full risk rates on policies to the tune of $5,000 and $6,000, and their CSR discount is $11. I've reached out to companies and different sources to try to get a pin down as to why we're seeing these little bits of discounts, and I'm not getting any real straight answers. I'm told by underwriters there is a minimum rate, and if that minimum rate with the discounts is higher, then they don't get the discount. So I think there's something fundamentally flawed under risk rating 2.0 and these CSR discounts. And I just want to make that comment.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Up next, we have Samantha Estabrook. Samantha, are you on and would you like to provide comments?
Yes. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we are.
Perfect. My name is Samantha Estabrook, and I'm of OakWorks LLC. I submitted a public comment, and I just wanted to highlight it as a previous CRS coordinator for a Class 6 community, and as someone who helped contribute to the 2024 state-based credit sheets, which is something that CRS specialist or your ISO representative uses to just do an initial check to see if there are any just state adopted regulations that will help communities. That's just a little bit of my background. And I wanted to just highlight that I have submitted a report that covers the 7 summarized topic areas and kind of delves into some of the misconceptions that are found in some of the summarized topic areas and really elevates the overall purpose of the community rating system program for creating community incentive, as well as response to each of the 11 posed questions. In addition to that, there is a response, if interested, for the GAO report 2023, the 105977, which helped facilitate this meeting. And in addition to responding to all of the recommendations offered there, it does provide responses for the executive action recommendations in 1 and 2. I definitely thank FEMA for putting this opportunity together to allow folks to provide feedback in terms of opportunities to simplify the program, but also just opportunities to think about how benefits continue to be shared and can be elevated for individual community members. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Up next, we have Eric Silva Quintero. Eric, are you on and would you like to provide comments?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, this is Eric Silva Quintero from Osceola County. I'm the CRS coordinator here. And my comment is just to say, I think whenever applying any of these changes to the CRS program, we really need to think about what the program is for, what it's here for. And it's to incentivize communities to go above and beyond from what the NFIP requirements are to help mitigate flood damage and risk to community members. And when applying changes like opting communities automatically into the CRS program, we need to think about what that is actually accomplishing. Is it just to have a number on a spreadsheet or on a presentation and say, hey, look, we have more communities in the CRS program than we did the year prior? Or is it actually accomplishing the CRS original intention, which is to mitigate flood risk? Is it accomplishing that? And whenever applying any other changes, we really need to think about that how it's affecting the communities that are already in the program. Is it making it easier for them to stay in their current rating? Is it making it unnecessarily more difficult for them to stay in the rating that they currently are in? And what are the benefits that we are actually offering the communities? If the community, like I've heard from many other members from around the country, are not receiving the incentives that they were promised, it becomes something very difficult to sell to our communities as something that we should be doing or is good for us. If their community members are not seeing the incentives, and if we're not seeing any return on our investment, then the CRS program's goal is not being met. And that can make it very difficult for us to do our job and to keep faith in the community and in on what we are accomplishing. Thank you very much. That is my comment.
Thank you for your comments. It looks like we have gone through the list of folks who had raised their hand. This is a final call for any additional verbal comments from participants. If you'd like to provide verbal comments and have not yet gotten a chance to do so, please raise your hand and we will call on you. Okay. I think at this point, there are no additional verbal comments that we are seeing from participants. Shilpa, I'm happy to hand it back over to you for closing comments, closing remarks.
Thank you, Hunter. I want to thank all of you again for joining today's public meeting and for those who provided their verbal comments. We need input from the whole community as we review the CRS program and position it for the future. If you already haven't done so, please remember to submit written comments via the federal e-rulemaking portal at www.regulations.gov using Docket ID FEMA-2024-0022-0001 up until September 9th, 2024. The transcript of this public meeting will be available on FEMA.gov and the Federal Register at a later date. In the meantime, please send any questions to FEMA-CRS-redesign@FEMA.dhs.gov. Thank you once again, and this concludes today's public meeting for FEMA CRS Redesign.